The hot sun beat down on Master Sergeant Ta Kim as he wiped sweat from his forehead. His green beret sat firmly on his head, a symbol of the elite soldier he was. Ta had been in this desert for 3 weeks now. His team of 6 men kept watch over a small village that had been threatened by local fighters. "All clear on the east side," said Ta into his radio. He scanned the horizon with his binoculars again. Nothing moved except heat waves rising from the sand. Ta was 35 years old and had served in the U.S. Army Special Forces for 12 years. He had fought in more battles than he cared to remember. His skills in combat, survival, and languages had saved his life many times. As night fell, Ta sat in the small command tent looking at maps. Something strange had been happening with their communications all day. Random sounds and clicks interrupted their radio signals. "Sir, you need to hear this," said Corporal Lee, holding out a headset. Ta put it on and heard a series of tones and clicks that didn't sound like any language or code he knew. "It's on all channels now," Lee said, "and it's not coming from any direction we can track." Ta frowned. "Keep monitoring. Wake me if anything changes." At midnight, Ta woke to a bright blue light shining through his tent. The light was so bright it made the tent walls look like they were made of paper. "Positions," Ta shouted as he grabbed his rifle and ran outside. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. A massive disc hovered silently above their small base. It was at least 300 feet wide and covered in strange markings. The blue light came from its center, bathing the entire area in an eerie glow. "Hold your fire," Ta ordered as his men aimed their weapons upward. "Nobody shoots unless I give the order." The air felt charged with electricity. Ta's skin tingled, and the hair on his arms stood up. Then the blue light intensified, focusing directly on him. Ta tried to move but couldn't. A force held him in place as the light grew brighter. He heard his men shouting, but their voices seemed far away. Then his feet left the ground, and he began to float upward. "Stand down. That's an order," Ta managed to shout as he rose higher. He didn't want his men risking their lives trying to save him. Whatever was happening was beyond their capabilities. The last thing Ta saw before the light blinded him completely was his team staring up in shock, their weapons useless at their sides. When Ta could see again, he was in a large round room with walls that seemed to be made of metal, but they glowed with a soft inner light. The air smelled strange, clean but artificial, like a hospital, but with a hint of something alien. He was lying on a flat surface that felt neither warm nor cold. When he tried to move, he discovered he could sit up. His weapons were gone, but he still wore his uniform. A door slid open in the wall, though Ta hadn't seen any outline of a door before. Through it walked the strangest creature Ta had ever seen. It stood nearly 7 feet tall on 2 legs. Its body resembled a praying mantis, with a triangular head and large, compound eyes that shimmered with rainbow colors. 2 arms ended in hands with 3 long fingers. Its body was covered in hard plates that looked like armor, colored deep green and black. Behind this creature came 3 more just like it, each carrying what looked like weapons, long rods that glowed at one end. The first creature spoke, its mouth parts moving in complex patterns. A device on its chest lit up, and a mechanical voice came out. "Human soldier, you have been chosen as test subject. Your species has been marked for conquest by the Vrax Empire. I am Commander Du-Hyun." Ta stood up slowly, his special forces training kicking in. "Stay calm. Gather information. Look for weaknesses. Why have you taken me?" Ta asked, his voice steady despite the shock of his situation. "To learn how easily you die," replied Commander Du-Hyun. "The Vrax conquer all worlds in our path. We have defeated 17 species across 3 star systems. Humans will be the 18th. Ta noticed the creature's stance was confident, even arrogant. These Vrax clearly believed themselves superior. That was their first mistake. "You've made a bad choice," said Ta quietly. "We do not make mistakes," said Du-Hyun. "You will see this soon in the combat arena." As they led Ta from the room, he began to notice details about the ship and its occupants. Every observation could be important. Every weakness could be exploited. If these aliens wanted to test humanity's fighting ability, they had picked the wrong human to start with. Commander Do-hyun walked with pride through the ship's main corridor. Other Vraks moved aside to let him pass. His recent capture of a human warrior had put him in high favor with the Empire. Good. Has he tried to escape? Asked Do-hyun. Min shook his head. No. He sits quietly, watching everything. It is unusual. Most new species panic when captured. Do-hyun clicked his mandibles together, a sign of Vrak's amusement. That will change when he sees what awaits him in the arena. They entered the ship's command center, a large room filled with Vraks working at control stations. A massive window showed the blackness of space, dotted with stars. Earth was visible as a blue and green sphere in the distance. "Commander on deck," shouted Min. The Vraks in the room stood at attention, their hard exoskeletons clicking as they moved. "At ease," said Do-hyun. He walked to the center of the room where a hologram of Earth rotated slowly. "This planet has resources we need, and a species that appears weak. Our tests will confirm if humans are worth keeping as slaves or should be eliminated." The Vraks officers clicked in agreement. Their species had conquered many worlds, and Earth would be no different. "What makes humans special is their adaptability," said Science Officer Hejun, approaching the hologram. "They live in all environments on their planet, from freezing cold to burning hot. They are physically weaker than Vraks, but they create tools to compensate." Do-hyun waved a dismissive hand. "Tools mean nothing without strength to use them. Bring up the human's data." The hologram changed to show images of Tai Kim, captured during his abduction. Measurements and biological readings appeared beside the images. "This human is what they call a green beret, an elite fighter in their military," explained Hejun. "I suggest we study him carefully before." "Before what?" interrupted Do-hyun. "Before we crush him like all the others. The testing protocols are clear. He fights in the arena, and we measure his species worth." In his cell, Tai sat cross-legged on the floor. He had been counting time since his capture, approximately 6 hours. He had also been counting Vraks. 23 had passed his cell, each with different markings on their exoskeletons that likely indicated rank or job. Ta had been in worse situations. During his training, he had endured simulated captivity for weeks. The real thing was not much different, except for the aliens. He examined his cell carefully. The door had no visible handle or lock. The walls were smooth metal with strange symbols etched into them. A small vent near the ceiling pushed in cool air. Ta closed his eyes and focused on his breathing. Panic was the enemy now. Clear thinking would keep him alive. The doors slid open suddenly. 4 Vraks guards entered, each holding a weapon that resembled a spear with an electric tip. "Stand, human," ordered the lead guard. Ta stood slowly, keeping his hands visible. No sudden movements. "You will come with us to the arena," said the guard. "Commander Do-hyun wishes to test your combat abilities." Ta nodded. "I understand." The guard seemed surprised by his calm response. They had expected resistance or fear. As they led him through the ship, Ta memorized the path. Left, right, straight for 50 paces, down a ramp, right again. Even if escape seemed impossible now, information was always valuable. They entered a large chamber where dozens of Vraks were gathered around a central pit. The pit was circular, about 30 feet across, with walls that rose 15 feet high. Strange objects floated in the air inside the pit. Platforms, barriers, and what looked like weapons. Commander Do-hyun stood on a raised platform overlooking the arena. When he saw Tai, he raised his arms. "Behold, the human warrior," he announced to the gathered Vraks. "Today we test the fighting capability of Earth's supposed best." The Vraks clicked and hissed in excitement. "Human," Do-hyun addressed Ta directly. "In this arena, You will face 5 of our warriors. The arena is set to 0 gravity. If you survive for 5 minutes, you will have earned the right to a quick death. If not..." He left the sentence unfinished. Ta looked around at the eager alien faces. They expected a show, his defeat, and probably his death. Little did they know that Green Berets received training for zero-gravity combat. It had been added to their program 3 years ago, in preparation for possible space operations. "I accept your challenge," said Ta calmly. Do-hyun seemed taken aback by Ta's confidence. "Then let the test begin." As the guards pushed Ta toward the edge of the pit, he heard one Vrak say to another, "This will be quick. Humans cannot possibly match our warriors." Ta allowed himself a small smile. The Vraks were about to learn an important lesson about underestimating humans, especially a Green Beret. Ta stepped to the edge of the arena and looked down. Below him, gravity seemed to stop. Various objects, metal bars, curved shields, and what looked like weapons, floated freely in the space. "Jump, human," ordered one of the guards, poking Ta with the butt of his spear. Ta took a deep breath and pushed off from the edge. Immediately, he felt the strange sensation of zero gravity take hold. He had trained for this, but training simulations were never quite like the real thing. His body drifted upward slightly, then began to float in place. Around the arena, the gathered Vraks clicked and hissed with excitement. A new voice boomed above the noise. "I am Emperor Sunho. I have come to witness this test myself." Ta looked up to see a larger Vraks enter the viewing area. This one wore gold plates over parts of his exoskeleton and was accompanied by several guards. Beside him walked a smaller Vraks with red markings. "My Emperor," said Commander Do-hyun, bowing deeply, "you honor us with your presence. This is Military Advisor Jin," he added, gesturing to the red-marked Vraks. "Begin the test," ordered Emperor Sunho, taking a seat on a raised platform. "I want to see what these humans are capable of before we invade their world." A door opened on the opposite side of the arena. 5 Vraks warriors floated out, each carrying what looked like glowing blue swords. Unlike Ta, they wore devices on their backs that seemed to help them control their movement in zero gravity. "The human warrior will face 5 of our junior combat specialists," announced Do-hyun. "They will use training blades that cause pain but not death. The test ends when the human surrenders or can no longer fight." Ta noticed that the Vraks warriors moved with confidence, but also with caution in the zero-gravity environment. Despite their technology, they were not completely comfortable without gravity. "Begin," shouted Emperor Sunho. The 5 Vraks pushed off from different points, moving toward Ta from all sides. Their strategy was clear: surround him and attack together. Ta remained still, floating in place. He watched their approach carefully, noting how they used their thrusters to adjust their paths. The first warrior reached him, swinging the glowing blade in a wide arc. Ta waited until the last moment, then used his core muscles to twist his body just enough for the blade to miss. The Vrax's momentum carried him past Ta. "He dodged," exclaimed Advisor Jin, "without a thruster pack." Ta grabbed the passing Vrax's arm and used the alien's momentum to pull himself toward one of the floating metal bars. Now he had something to push against. The second and third warriors were approaching fast. Using the bar, Ta propelled himself directly at the second warrior. This surprised the Vrax, who tried to change direction but couldn't do so quickly enough. Ta grabbed the warrior's thruster pack as he passed and twisted it, causing the Vrax to spin out of control. "What is he doing?" demanded Emperor Sunho. "How does he move so well without thrusters?" Commander Do-hyun had no answer. He watched with growing concern as Ta continued to evade the warriors. The third Vrax managed to get close enough to strike, but Ta caught his arm and used the Vrax's momentum against him. He pulled the alien close, quickly removed its blade, then pushed off from the warrior's body toward another floating object. "Impossible," hissed Do-hyun. "He's using their own momentum as a weapon." Now armed with a Vrax blade, Ta had a weapon and better control of his movement. The fourth and fifth warriors approached more cautiously, trying to coordinate their attack. Ta pushed off from a floating shield, moving directly between them. As they both struck, he twisted in a way that caused their blades to hit each other. The confusion gave Ta time to grab one warrior's thruster pack and redirect it, sending the Vrax crashing into his teammate. Within 3 minutes, all 5 Vrax warriors were either disarmed or unable to control their movement. None had landed a single hit on Ta. The arena fell silent. Even Emperor Sunho seemed at a loss for words. Military advisor Jin leaned close to the Emperor and whispered, "If this is an average human fighter, their species may be more dangerous than we thought." Emperor Sunho's compound eyes narrowed as he watched Ta float calmly in the center of the arena, holding a captured Vrax blade. "Bring me more information about these green berets," he ordered. "I want to know exactly what we're facing." Emperor Sunho stood up from his seat, his compound eyes fixed on Ta, who floated calmly in the arena. The 5 defeated Vrax warriors struggled to regain control of their movements, some spinning helplessly, while others bumped into the arena walls. "This is impossible," Emperor Sunho hissed, his mandibles clicking rapidly in anger. 5 of our warriors defeated by 1 human. Commander Du-hyun bowed low. "My Emperor, I take full responsibility. We underestimated." "Silence." Sunho cut him off. "I want to see more. Send in real warriors this time." Military advisor Jin stepped forward. "My Emperor, perhaps we should study this human further before." "Are you questioning my orders?" Sunho turned his full attention to Jin. Jin bowed quickly. "No, Emperor. I suggest only that we might learn more by watching how he fights against our best." Sunho seemed to consider this. "Very well. Send in 3 elite warriors. Let us see how the human handles true Vrax combat skill." Down in the arena, Ta had managed to secure one of the thruster packs from a defeated warrior. He strapped it to his back, quickly figuring out how the simple controls worked. With small movements of his fingers, he could now control his direction and speed. A new door opened in the arena wall. 3 larger Vrax entered, their exoskeletons marked with battle scars and decorated with symbols of rank. Each carried 2 weapons, a longer plasma blade and a shorter curved knife that glowed red at its edge. "Human," called out Emperor Sunho. "You have survived the first test. Now face the true might of the Vrax Empire." Ta nodded and readied himself. These warriors moved differently, more confident, more controlled in zero gravity. They spread out in a triangle formation, clearly planning to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. The spectating Vrax grew quiet, watching intently. Even Commander Du-hyun leaned forward, curious to see how this would play out. The 3 elite warriors attacked at once, their movements perfectly coordinated. Ta waited until the last possible moment, then fired his thruster at full power, shooting straight up. The 3 Vrax, unable to adjust quickly enough, nearly collided with each other. "He's using their formation against them," exclaimed Jin. As Ta passed over the warriors, he grabbed a floating metal bar. When the Vrax looked up, Ta was already swinging the bar like a staff, knocking one warrior's weapons from his hands. The other 2 Vrax recovered quickly and came at Ta from opposite sides. He waited, timing their approach, then cut his thruster power. As he dropped between them, they both thrust their weapons forward and hit nothing but empty space. Ta grabbed one warrior's arm as he fell, using the alien's body as an anchor. He twisted, disarming the Vrax with a quick strike to a joint in the exoskeleton, a weak point he had noticed during the first fight. "He knows our weaknesses," gasped Do-hyun. "How is this possible?" The 3rd warrior came at Ta with both weapons. Ta used the thruster pack to dodge, then propelled himself toward one of the floating shields. He grabbed it and used it to block the Vrax's next attack. The plasma blade cut partway through the shield, getting stuck for a moment. That moment was all Ta needed. He pushed the shield forward, forcing the blade deeper, then spun around it. Now behind the warrior, Tay targeted the thruster pack controls, damaging them with a precise strike. The warrior began to spin uncontrollably. Within minutes, all 3 elite warriors were defeated, disarmed, immobilized, or unable to control their movement in the zero gravity. Complete silence fell over the watching Vrax. Emperor Sunho stood rigid, his compound eyes fixed on the human who had just defeated some of his best warriors. "Impossible," he whispered, but everyone heard him in the silence. Military advisor Jin stepped close to the Emperor. "My Emperor, I believe we must reconsider our plans for Earth. If their elite soldiers can defeat our best warriors so easily." Sunho turned to Commander Do-hyun. "Bring the human to my chamber. I wish to speak with him directly." As guards entered the arena to retrieve Ta, Do-hyun exchanged worried looks with Jin. For the first time in the history of the Vrax Empire, there was fear of what they might face if they invaded Earth. "Perhaps," Jin said quietly to Do-hyun, "we have found a species that cannot be conquered so easily." Tai sat in a chair made of strange metal that adjusted to his body shape. The room was different from his cell, larger with control panels along the walls and a large window showing the stars outside. 4 guards stood at each corner, their weapons pointed at him. Emperor Sunho entered, followed by military advisor Jin and a smaller Vrax with markings Ta hadn't seen before. "I am Emperor Sunho of the Vrax Empire," he announced, standing tall. "You have impressed us, human. No species has ever defeated our warriors so easily." Tay remained silent, studying the Emperor. Behind the alien's confidence, he sensed a new emotion: uncertainty. "This is scientist Ho-jun," Sunho continued, gesturing to the smaller Vrax. "He will ask you questions about your planet. Answer truthfully, and you will be treated well." Ta nodded but said nothing. This was familiar territory. In his training, he had learned how to handle interrogations, give some information, but mix truth with lies. The guards left, and Ho-jun approached with a device that looked like a tablet. "I will begin with simple questions. How many continents are on Earth?" 7, Tai answered. Basic geography was public knowledge. "How many major military powers exist on your planet?" 3, Tai lied smoothly. "The Northern Alliance, the Eastern Federation, and the Southern Union." Ho-jun recorded the answer. "And which has the strongest military?" "The Eastern Federation has the most soldiers, but the Northern Alliance has better technology," Ta said, creating more fiction. For the next hour, Tai fed Ho-jun a mixture of truth and carefully crafted lies about Earth's defenses, governments, and military capabilities. He mentioned non-existent weapon systems and fake weaknesses that would lead the Vrax into traps if they tried to use this information. While answering questions, Tai observed everything: the layout of the room, the symbols on control panels, the way doors opened and closed, and most importantly, the schedule of guard changes. Every 20 minutes, the guards rotated positions. "Tell me about these green berets," Ho-jun asked. "We're just regular soldiers with some extra training," Ta said casually. "Nothing special compared to your warriors." Ho-jun's head tilted, a gesture Ta had learned meant doubt. "Your performance suggests otherwise." "I got lucky," Ta shrugged. "And I've had some zero-gravity training for space station duty." "How many green berets exist?" "About 100, Ta lied. The actual number was in the thousands. As their session continued, Ta noticed the ship's lights flicker briefly. Ho-jun looked up, concerned. "What was that?" Ta asked, pretending ignorance. "Nothing important," Ho-jun replied too quickly. "The ship sometimes experiences power fluctuations when we use the main engines." This was useful information. Ta filed it away. After another hour, Ho-jun left to report to the Emperor. 2 guards remained, standing on either side of the door. Ta waited patiently. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The ship's lights flickered again, longer this time. One guard spoke into a communication device on his wrist. This was the opportunity Tai had been waiting for. During the interrogation, he had slowly worked a small metal piece loose from his chair. Now he held it hidden in his palm. The guard's attention was focused on his communication device. The lights flickered a third time, and then went out completely. Emergency lights came on, bathing the room in dim red light. Ta moved instantly. He threw the metal piece at one guard, hitting him directly in the joint between head and thorax, a weakness he had spotted in the arena. The guard dropped, stunned. Before the second guard could react, Tai was already on him, using the hand-to-hand combat techniques he had mastered over years of training. In seconds, both guards were unconscious. Ta quickly took their weapons and a communication device. From the open door, he heard alarms and saw Vraks running through the corridors. Ta slipped out of the room and moved in the opposite direction of the running Vraks. His training had taught him that during emergencies, confusion created opportunities. Using the mental map he had been building since his capture, Ta headed toward what he believed was the ship's hangar bay. If he could find a small craft, he might have a chance to escape, or at least learn more about the Vraks fleet. As he moved through the dimly lit corridors, Ta heard a familiar voice from around a corner. "Check all secure areas. The human must not escape during the power failure." It was Commander Do-hyun. Ta pressed himself against a wall and waited for the right moment to make his next move. Todd pressed himself against the wall as Commander Do-hyun and 4 guards rushed past. Once they were gone, he continued moving through the dimly lit corridors. The red emergency lights cast strange shadows, making the alien ship even more confusing to navigate. Following the signs he had memorized, Tai turned left at a junction and found himself facing a large door marked with symbols he recognized from ship maps he had seen during his interrogation. If he was right, this should be the hangar bay. The door was locked, but Ta had taken a key card from one of the guards. He swiped it across the panel. The door slid open silently. Inside was not a hangar bay, but a massive room filled with screens and control stations. Vraks officers moved between stations, too busy with their duties to notice Tai at first. On the largest screen was a view of space, but not the starfield Tai had seen earlier. This showed a planet, dark green and purple, with massive cities visible even from space. "We have arrived at Vrakar," announced a voice over the ship's communication system. "All personnel prepare for docking procedures." Tai realized he was in the ship's main bridge, and they had just reached the Vraks homeworld. One of the Vraks officers turned and saw Tai. "Intruder," he shouted, reaching for his weapon. Tai was faster. He fired the stun setting on the weapon he had taken, dropping the officer. But more Vraks were turning now, alerted by the shout. Ta ducked behind a control panel as stun blasts hit the wall behind him. He needed to find a way out, but the only door was the one he had entered through, now blocked by armed Vraks. "Do not kill the human," ordered a familiar voice. Emperor Sun Ho entered the bridge, flanked by guards. "He is too valuable to lose." Tai remained hidden, listening carefully. "The human has seen our fleet preparations," said Sun Ho to someone beside him. "It no longer matters. Once we demonstrate our power, he will understand the futility of resistance." Tai risked a peek around the control panel. What he saw made his blood run cold. On the screens around the bridge were images of thousands of warships, all similar to the one he was on. They filled the space around the planet, clearly preparing for something big. An invasion force, aimed at Earth. Before Tai could plan his next move, something struck him from behind. His body went numb, and he collapsed to the floor. Standing over him was scientist Hejun, holding some kind of device. "Neural disruptor," Hejun explained. "You will recover in a few hours, without permanent damage." Tai could not move, but he remained conscious as guards lifted him and carried him to the center of the bridge. They placed him in front of Emperor Sun Ho. "Impressive escape attempt," said Sun Ho. But now you will witness the true power of the Vrax Empire. The largest screen changed to show a different view, a small red planet that Tay recognized immediately. Mars. And on its surface, visible as small lights, was a human colony. Yes, said Sunho, seeing the recognition in Ta's eyes. Your people have expanded beyond Earth. A small colony of 10,000 humans on your neighboring planet. Brave explorers, scientists, and their families. Military advisor Jin stepped forward. My Emperor, our fleet is in position. Look closely, human, Sunho said to Ta. This is the fate that awaits Earth if you do not cooperate. Tai tried to speak, but the neural disruptor had paralyzed his vocal cords too. He could only watch as Sunho turned to Jin. Signal the fleet. Target the human Mars colony. Jin hesitated. Emperor, the colony poses no threat. Perhaps we should. Are you questioning my orders again? Sunho's compound eyes flashed with anger. Before Jin could answer, a new Vrax entered the bridge. This one was taller than Emperor Sunho, with elaborate markings on her exoskeleton. The other Vrax, even Sunho, lowered their heads slightly as she entered. Supreme Leader Myray, Sunho said with clear surprise. We did not expect you aboard this vessel. I have been watching your handling of this human situation. Emperor Sunho, said Myray. Her voice was cold and commanding. The High Council is concerned about your methods. Myray looked down at Tai, still paralyzed on the floor. This human warrior has shown unusual capabilities. The Council wishes to study him further before any action is taken against Earth or its colonies. Ta watched the interaction carefully, so there was someone even Emperor Sunho answered to. This information could be useful, if he survived long enough to use it. 4 hours later, Ta stood before the Vrax High Council. The neural disruptor's effects had worn off, and he could move and speak again. The council chamber was a massive room with a high ceiling. 7 Vrax sat in raised seats arranged in a half-circle. Supreme Leader Myray sat in the center, with Emperor Sunho to her right. Human warrior, Myray addressed Tai. You have shown skills that surprised us. Before we decide Earth's fate, we wish to understand your species better. Ta looked around the chamber. Guards stood at every exit. Escape would be nearly impossible. But perhaps there was another way to save Earth. Supreme Leader, Ta said, his voice steady. I propose a demonstration. The council members clicked their mandibles, the Vrax equivalent of murmuring among themselves. What demonstration? Asked Myray. Your warriors are known throughout the galaxy as the best fighters, Ta said. I challenge your 3 greatest champions to face me at once. If I win, you reconsider your plans to invade Earth. Emperor Sunho stood up. This is absurd. You were lucky in the arena. Against our best warriors, you would have no chance. Military advisor Jin, who stood near the council table, spoke quietly. Your supreme leader, the human has already defeated 5 junior warriors and 3 elite warriors. Perhaps there is more to learn here. Myray's compound eyes studied Ta carefully. And if you lose this challenge, then I will tell you everything I know about Earth's defenses, the real information, not what I told scientist Hejun. Ta knew this was a dangerous gamble, but he needed to buy time. The council members conferred among themselves, speaking in their own language, which sounded like clicks and hisses to Ta's ears. Finally, Myray spoke. We accept your challenge, human. You will face our 3 greatest warriors tomorrow in the great arena of Vrakkar. All Vrax citizens will witness this event. Ta nodded. I have one request. I wish to observe Vrax training sessions before the challenge. You wish to study our fighting techniques. Emperor Sunho sounded outrage. It will make for a better demonstration, Tay replied calmly. Don't you want your people to see a true contest? Myray considered this. He will be allowed to observe, but from a distance. 4 guards will accompany him at all times. As Tai was led from the council chamber, Jin approached him. You cannot win against our champions, Jin said quietly. War Master Jun has never been defeated in combat. Death Hunter Hyun has killed opponents from 12 different species, and Silent One N serves as the Emperor's personal guard. Then it should be an interesting demonstration, Tae replied. The next day, Tai was taken to a large training facility. From a viewing platform, he watched as Vrak's warriors practiced combat moves. His 4 guards kept weapons pointed at him, but they also seemed curious about his interest. Tae observed carefully, noting how the Vraks moved, where their joints connected, and how they reacted to different attacks. Most importantly, he studied their neural responses, how they flinched when certain areas were struck or touched. "What are you looking for?" asked one guard. "Just trying to learn," Tae answered honestly. After 6 hours of observation, Tai was returned to his cell. There, he practiced movements that looked like simple exercises, but were actually specialized Green Beret techniques. He focused particularly on strikes that would target what he now understood was a critical weakness in Vrak's physiology. The exoskeleton that protected the Vraks had natural seams where the plates connected. At those seams, their nervous system was more exposed. A precisely targeted strike could cause temporary neural disruption, not unlike the disruptor that had been used on him. News of the challenge spread quickly through Vracker. Screens throughout the city announced that a human warrior had challenged the greatest Vrax champions. Crowds gathered outside the great arena, eager to witness what they expected would be the humans' defeat. What they didn't know was that Tai had spent his entire career preparing for impossible situations. Every Green Beret was trained not just to fight, but to observe, adapt, and exploit enemy weaknesses, and Tai had found a crucial weakness in the feared Vrax warriors. As night fell on Vracker, Tai lay on the bed in his cell, reviewing his plan. Tomorrow, he would either save Earth or die trying. But one thing was certain: the Vraks would never forget their encounter with a Green Beret. The great arena of Vracker was massive. It could hold 50,000 spectators, and today it was filled to capacity. Vraks from all levels of society had come to witness the human challenge their greatest warriors. Giant screens around the arena showed close-up views so everyone could see the action. Supreme Leader Mirai sat in a special box high above the arena floor. Emperor Sunho sat beside her, along with other high-ranking officials. Military advisor Jin stood nearby, watching Tai with what seemed like genuine curiosity. "Citizens of the Vrax Empire," announced Mirai, her voice amplified throughout the arena. "Today we witness a unique event. This human has challenged our 3 greatest warriors to prove the worth of his species." The crowd roared with excitement, the sound of thousands of mandibles clicking creating a sound like crashing waves. "First," continued Mirai, "War Master Jun, undefeated in 300 combat trials." A massive Vrax entered the arena. He was larger than any Tai had seen before, his exoskeleton scarred from countless battles. He carried a staff with glowing ends, a weapon that could deliver powerful electric shocks. Second, Death Hunter Hyun, who has claimed victories across 12 star systems. Another Vrax entered from a different door. This one was smaller but moved with incredible speed. Multiple blades were attached to his arms, and his eyes were modified with targeting enhancements that glowed red. And finally, Silent One Yun, personal protector of Emperor Sunho. The third Vrax moved so quietly that even Tae's trained ears barely heard her approach. Her exoskeleton was sleek and black, with fewer armored plates for greater speed and flexibility. The 3 warriors surrounded Tai, keeping equal distance from each other. The crowd fell silent, waiting for the signal to begin. "This is your last chance to surrender, human," said War Master Jun. "No one has ever defeated even one of us, let alone all 3. Tae remained silent, his mind focused. His eyes moved from one warrior to another, looking for the specific weak points he had identified during his observations. "Begin," shouted Mirai. All 3 warriors moved at once. Death Hunter Hyun came in fast from the right, blades extended. War Master Jun charged straight ahead with his staff. Silent One N seemed to vanish, using some kind of cloaking technology to disappear from sight. Ta waited until the last possible moment, then dropped to the ground. Hyun's blades passed over him, and Jun's staff struck empty air. As Tai rolled back to his feet, he lashed out with his foot, striking the seemingly empty space where he had calculated Hyun would be. There was a crackle as Hyun's cloaking failed. She stumbled backward, surprised that Tai had found her. "Impossible," gasped Emperor Sunho from his viewing box. How did he know where she was? The crowd murmured in shock. No one had ever detected Silent One Hyun while she was cloaked. Tai didn't pause. He moved directly toward War Master Jun, seeming to accept the challenge head-on. Jun swung his staff with enormous power. Instead of dodging, Ta stepped into the attack, caught the staff between his hands, and twisted it. The momentum carried both of them around, but Ta used it to his advantage. As they spun, he delivered 3 precise strikes to the seams in Jun's exoskeleton, exactly where the neural connections were most vulnerable. Jun froze, his system temporarily overloaded. The staff fell from his hands, and Ta caught it before it hit the ground. Now armed, Tai turned to face Death Hunter Hyun, who was already launching his next attack. Hyun's blades came at Tai from multiple angles, almost too fast to see. But Ta had trained with the world's best knife fighters. He blocked each strike with the staff, then countered with his own attack. The staff's end touched Hyun's side, right at another neural connection point. Hyun's body jerked as the electric charge disrupted his nervous system. He collapsed to his knees, his blades clattering to the ground. Silent One Hyun had recovered and attacked from behind. Ta sensed her approach and spun at the last second. He used the staff as a vault, leaping over her attack. As he passed over her, he struck the back of her neck, the most sensitive neural point in a Vrax's body. Hyun dropped to the ground, completely immobilized. In less than 5 minutes, all 3 of the Vrax Empire's greatest warriors had been defeated. The arena was completely silent. 50,000 Vrax stared in disbelief at the humans standing alone among their fallen champions. Even Supreme Leader Mirai seemed at a loss for words. Emperor Sunho's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Military Advisor Jin was the first to speak. The human has won the challenge. The silence in the great arena of Vracker lasted nearly a full minute. 50,000 Vrax sat motionless, staring at the human who had defeated their 3 greatest warriors. On the arena floor, War Master Jun, Death Hunter Hyun, and Silent One Hyun remained where they had fallen. Tai stood calmly in the center. He was breathing hard from the fight, but otherwise showed no signs of distress. He looked up at the viewing box where Supreme Leader Mirai and Emperor Sunho watched with disbelief. Then Tai did something that shocked the Vrax even more. He walked to War Master Jun, bent down, and helped the warrior to his feet. "What is he doing?" Emperor Sunho asked, his voice carrying in the silence. Jun seemed just as confused. In Vrax culture, defeated opponents were left to recover on their own, or sometimes executed if the defeat was shameful enough. Next, Ta moved to Death Hunter Hyun and Silent One Hyun, helping each of them stand. The 3 warriors looked at each other, then at Tai, clearly unsure how to respond to this strange behavior. "The human warrior has won the challenge," announced Mirai, finally breaking the silence. "Bring him before the High Council." 20 minutes later, Tai stood in the council chamber again. This time, however, the atmosphere was very different. The council members watched him with what seemed like respect, or perhaps fear. "You have proven yourself in combat," said Mirai. "As agreed, we will reconsider our plans for Earth. But first, we wish to understand how you defeated our greatest warriors so easily." Tai chose his next words carefully. This was his chance to protect Earth. "What you saw today wasn't special," Ta said. "I am just one green Beret. On Earth, we have thousands like me." Emperor Sunho clicked his mandibles in disbelief. "Impossible. No species could produce so many elite warriors." "It's true," Ta continued. And Green Berets are just one of many Special Forces units. Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Delta Force. Each has their own unique skills and training. If you attempt to invade Earth, you would face all of them. Military Advisor Jin stepped forward. Supreme Leader, our intelligence suggests he is telling the truth. Human military training is extremely diverse and specialized. Tai pressed his advantage. I learned your weaknesses after just one day of observation. Imagine what Earth's combined forces could do with more time and information. The council members conferred among themselves, speaking in low clicks and hisses. Todd waited patiently. He had done all he could. Now it was up to the Vraks to make their decision. Finally, Mirai spoke. Human warrior Ta Kim, your victory has earned our respect. The High Council has decided to suspend our invasion plans. A wave of relief washed over Tai, but he kept his expression neutral. However, Mirai continued, we cannot appear weak before the other species in our empire. We need a way to explain this change of plans. Ta saw an opportunity. Perhaps instead of conquest, you could consider alliance. Earth has technologies and resources that could benefit the Vraks Empire. In return, we could share knowledge about space travel and other worlds. Emperor Sunho seemed ready to object, but Mirai raised a hand to silence him. An interesting proposal, she said. It would allow us to maintain our standing while avoiding a costly war. I can't speak officially for Earth, Tai added, but I believe our leaders would prefer peaceful cooperation over conflict. Mirai stood, towering over Ta. Very well. You will be returned to Earth as our emissary. You will explain to your leaders that the Vraks Empire wishes to establish diplomatic relations. Ta nodded. And the Mars colony will remain untouched, Mirai assured him. As a show of good faith. 3 days later, Ta stood on the bridge of a Vraks transport ship approaching Earth. Military Advisor Jin had been assigned to accompany him. Your planet is beautiful, Jin remarked, looking at the blue and green sphere growing larger in the view screen. It's worth protecting, Tai replied. Jin turned to face him. You know, across the 17 species we've encountered, none have ever caused us to reconsider our plans. The Galactic Intelligence Network has already updated Earth's status to protected species. Approach with extreme caution. Tai smiled slightly. Just remember, I'm not special among humans. I'm just the first Green Beret you met. As the ship prepared to enter Earth's atmosphere, Ta knew that the galaxy had just become a safer place for humanity. And it all started because the Galactic Empire's most feared species had met a Green Beret and instantly regretted it.